Prime Minister Mark Carney has acknowledged that lower immigration targets are contributing to Canada's current economic weakness, adding a major new layer to the national debate over whether the country has entered a technical recession. Canada's latest GDP data has raised concern because the economy contracted for 2 consecutive quarters. While economists may disagree on whether this amounts to a full recession, the numbers have intensified the debate over immigration, population growth, housing pressure, and long-term economic planning. Carney said the government is laying the foundation for a stronger, more resilient, and more independent Canadian economy, but that economic data will be uneven during this transition. He pointed to deliberate government decisions, including taking back control of immigration and slowing spending growth, as reasons why some weakness is appearing in the data. However, Carney did not announce any plan to increase immigration. He did not signal a reversal of the current immigration targets. Instead, his comments highlighted the trade-off that comes with slower population growth. Lower immigration may reduce pressure on housing and public services, but it can also weaken headline GDP growth, consumer demand, labor supply, post-secondary revenue, rental demand, and the future tax base. Statistics Canada data shows this trade-off clearly. Real GDP was unchanged in the first quarter of 2026 after declining in the previous quarter. Yet real GDP per person increased because Canada's population declined for a second consecutive quarter. That may look positive on paper, but a shrinking population base can also reduce economic momentum over time. The biggest issue is that immigration is often treated as one single number when it is actually made up of very different categories: refugees, asylum claimants, family class immigrants, overseas economic immigrants, temporary foreign workers, international students, in-Canada workers becoming permanent residents, and people extending their status all have different economic and fiscal impacts. Refugees and asylum claimants are part of Canada's humanitarian and international commitments. These categories are necessary, but they often require public spending on housing support, food assistance, language training, settlement services, and integration. Their fiscal impact is different from that of economic immigrants selected for skills or workers already contributing in Canada. The lowest burden category is often in-Canada workers and former international students transitioning to permanent residence. Many are already housed, employed, paying taxes, and integrated into Canadian communities. For them, permanent residence is largely a change of legal status rather than a new arrival adding fresh pressure to housing or public services. Overseas economic immigrants also bring a different value proposition. They may create new housing demand, but they are selected for education, language ability, work experience, settlement funds, and labor market potential. Economic immigration remains the largest part of Canada's immigration levels plan. International students could also rise again in future years, but the mix must be better. Canada needs stronger controls around institutional quality, housing capacity, labor market alignment, regional distribution, and source country diversity. The real problem was not immigration itself. It was poor balance, weak coordination, regional overconcentration, housing shortages, education sector dependence, labor market mismatch, and insufficient program integrity. Canada is unlikely to cut permanent resident targets further in the next level's announcement. A slight increase in international student numbers could come sooner, while a broader immigration increase is more likely later once the economic impact of lower population growth becomes clearer. The lesson from Carney's comments is that Canada's immigration debate needs a category-level reset. The question is no longer simply whether Canada needs more or fewer immigrants. The real question is, which categories should be prioritized, at what pace, from which countries, and with what housing, labor market, settlement, fiscal, and regional planning.